So,
Yeah.
okay, Tim, go.
Okay, well, thank you. You know, I do have to admit, it is a little hard to prepare for an ATA when you don't have a specific topic. When it's more just like talking about the things you want to talk about and the things that are important to you. So bear with me as I might go free flowing, and you all know me. You know I ramble, and you know I talk, and you know I talk fast. So I kind of basically the last 3 days I've just been putting together notes and thoughts. So again, this is obviously very casual. So just if you guys have questions or want to change the subject or want to really dive into something I'm talking about, just interrupt me because I don't think I have an hour's worth. Although you know you always say that, and then of course at 12:55 I'll be like, oh my God, we need to hurry up. So bear with me. I'm going to read my notes below. That's why I'm looking down. So today I'm going to talk a few things. I'm going to talk about my history and how I got into real estate and how I got here. Understanding my profile and how I learned to work with myself and work with my own brain. How I manage my schedule and my time. I'm going to talk about creating a specialty. As you guys all know, I specialize in old homes, and my opinion of you creating your own specialty and how you could do that. Starting teams and partnerships, hiring an assistant, my listing appointments, my buyer's appointments, and then just some kind of general tips at the end.
That sounds like an hour, Tim.
Well, it does, but
I don't think that'll be a problem.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm from a small town, Nebraska, Fairbury, Nebraska. So I'm although I've lived around the country, I do consider myself to be native Nebraskan. And I went to University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and that's where I met John. And I was actually my husband. That's where I was going to become a massage therapist. And he convinced me that I should be good into real estate. The real estate was good for my personality. And he was right all the way down the road. So I started getting into real estate. I started to buy rental properties. So we lived in Lincoln, and I was buying rental properties in Omaha. And I had bought if any of you remember the old infomercial in the 90s, Carlton Sheets. He was selling how to buy and sell houses. And, you know, like with no money down, that kind of thing. So I bought his class, and I immediately watched the class and realized it was a bunch of crap. And it was just a whole bunch of slimy, seedy ways of getting into real estate. So I decided if I'm going to do it, I should get my real estate license, only so that I could find the best deals. So I was getting my license with I was buying a rental property with Richter Real Estate, a small little company, and they invited me to come hang my license there. When I told them I was getting my license, they said, "Oh, come here." Well, I went home that day and I was all excited. I said I had a job offer. I didn't realize you could go anywhere. I didn't know that. But it was really a great thing, because what happened was I started working with Richter Real Estate. There was only like 5 of us there. It was very small. They dealt more with property management and rentals. And I had Edna Richter, elderly woman, and she had started the company in the 50s. By the way, the Richter Real Estate's still around. It's run by the kids. And Edna was my mentor. And I had a true mentor that was more of a grandma than a mentor than anything else. She answered every single question. She was just right there for me. She was amazing, Edna was. And she was wise. Like I said, she had been in the business for 50 some years at that time. So it was really nice to have a mentor at the very beginning, but also when I worked at Richter Real Estate, I didn't realize that I had been immersed in an old-fashioned way of doing real estate. They were still, and still are, they handled all their own closings. So and again, I didn't know other realtors didn't do it this way. I just thought this is how you did it. So when I sold a house, I would order title from the title company I liked. They would fax over the title binder, that's what they called it, and I would have to clear it. So I would have to go through and I would have to go read the title policy, and I would have to make sure if there were any liens or judgments on there, I would get the payoffs for the liens. I remember going to car lots and getting people to sign off on used cars, things like that. I dealt with a lot of seller carrybacks, a lot of land contracts, because that's what they did. I did my own closings, so I balanced the HUD myself. I did all of that myself, and I was probably 3 years into it before I realized that the other realtors weren't doing that they had moved on to title companies. But I'm telling you, it was great because I learned how to do all that hard stuff. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but to this day, I still do my seller's deed set closings. So I maintain my notary, and that deed set closing is one of the best meetings of my entire relationship with that seller. but I'll get in there in a minute. So Richter Real Estate was great. Edna was a great mentor. She taught me a lot about real estate. She taught me about how real estate will always has ebbs and flows. It gets really busy and it gets really slow. She told me about how you can be busy, busy, busy one day and the next day it just completely stops. And I've learned that over the years, that's true. She also taught me about how when the real estate market gets really, really good, you'll see lots of little real estate companies pop up. And then when the real estate market slows down, all those little companies go away and it becomes bigger. She was just really fascinating and I loved working with her. So while I was at Richter, I bought 13 rental properties. I got really good at real estate. I was out producing all of that company and I just had to move on. I just needed a bigger company. And it was hard to do because Richter Real Estate was sweet. Those people were wonderful. They were family. But I didn't even shop around. I just went straight to CVS Home. CVS Home had been trying to recruit me. They were the big boys in town. I liked them. I just went there. So I went to CVS Home, and that was a really good experience. I did like CVS Home. I got to be really good as an independent agent. And that's when I started, and this would be in the early 2000s, so I was young. I started learning about working by referral and what that meant. And this is before I had ever even learned about Brian Buffini. So I remember I once met a realtor in Lincoln, and he's since passed away. His name was Tim Francis. And I met him at an open house. And I found out that he was doing a tremendous amount of business. I mean, huge. And he was doing it 100% by referral. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And I thought maybe that could really happen. So I started to strive for working by referral. I started doing personal notes. I started doing all that kind of stuff. And then I moved up at CVS Home into management. I became one of their broker managers. I became a broker at that time. I managed the downtown and South Omaha offices of CVS Home. And again, things were going really well. That's when I met Carol. Carol she was what was your title at CVS Home? Director of Recruiting.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah, she came there. I met Kelly Michalunas. Kelly Michalunas I hired her. She was my first buyer's agent ever. And we were doing
100 Days to Greatness. 100 Days to Greatness, remember?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Way back then. Yeah. I did like CVS Home. The thing that started to make me feel I didn't necessarily like this giant conglomerate mentality was when I wanted to advertise in the gay newspaper. And I went to the broker and I said I had an ad I wanted to put in the little Gazette newspaper, and they told me no. And I remember being so upset by that, by thinking that, I know that they didn't want their name in a gay newspaper, but that was just, that was so backwards to me because it wasn't pornography, for God's sake. It was just advertising.
I never knew that.
Yeah, they said no. But then I will admit, about a week later, they came back and reversed their decision. They said, no, it's totally fine. They had taken it up to somebody in Minneapolis. And I was just like, by then the damage was already done. I'd already had a bad taste in my mouth. This giant corporation that only cared about the corporation, didn't care about the agents, that pissed me off. But anyway, so then Kelly and I, we wanted to start a team. I wanted to get out of management. Carol did as well. Carol was new from California. So we went to NP Dodge. The three of us with our assistant Shirley and friend Leslie, we went to NP Dodge. We started the Good Life Group. This was in 2008. It was what I say, we wanted to be a like-minded group of people. We wanted to focus by working by relationship. We wanted to have client parties. We really wanted to start identifying ourselves as something different. And also keep in mind, this is before mega teams were really that big in Omaha. Well, as you can imagine, starting a new team, it was difficult. We were getting the agents to join us. We were growing.
2008.
Pardon me?
It was 2008.
2008. We did help NP Dodge open a Midtown office, which was a big deal to me at the time. That's the 35th and Dodge office. Mm-hmm. But during that, you can imagine it's hard. It gets hard to start a team. We were still learning what we were doing. Carol Sousa got offered a really good job at NP Dodge because she was a new up and comer in Omaha. So she took the job and I took the team, and that's how it went. And so Carol went on to do relocation. She went on to do a whole bunch of things, a broker manager of one of the offices. And then I took the team a different direction. So at its height, the team, we were, I don't know if you guys know, when we got to our biggest, we were 19 people. when we eventually merged with Better Homes and Gardens, we were 65 million in production and about 400 sales a year. That's pretty big. We had our own office. We had our own receptionist, team manager. We had a relocation person. We had a stager. We had a photographer. We were a fully functioning brokerage running within the walls of NP Dodge. And we were doing really, really well. It was going really well, but as you can imagine, that was stressful in itself. Trying to manage the team. Also, the way my commission structure was run, I wasn't really making money off the team. I was only making money off my current sales. And so it just got really, really hard. And I would say, and maybe this isn't the right time, but my one story about NP Dodge that kind of made me a little delusioned about them was I had a listing and I had a client that she was a battered wife. And her husband had been beating her for years, finally got a divorce. And when he left her with the house and nothing else. Well, come to find out, he also left her with a mortgage on the house that was more than the house was worth. So he really screwed her over. And it was terrible. She needed to sell it. Obviously, she couldn't afford it. So I wanted to list it for free. I wanted to list it for 0 commission on the list side, BAC fee to the brokerage, and then pay out to the buy side. It was the best. I mean, and she was going to go into a rental. So this was not a matter of me trying to make money. This was me just trying to help this woman out. And they wouldn't let me. They said, no, we have to get our 6%. We have to do it. And that was my point where I was disillusioned with them. I'm like, I want to do the right thing. And I'm the one that's going to do all the work. And you're still going to get your BAC fee. Same point as back with CBS Home. It took them a few weeks, but they turned around and came around and said yes. Little did they know I had already done it without their permission. But that was the example of, I was like, and again, I'm not trying to point fingers at CBS Home or NP Dodge. It was more that giant corporate mentality that it was about the company and it wasn't about the agents or the buyer or the clients. So where are we at? So in about 2015, I had worked with Tom Simmons a couple times. He had run Gold Coast Realty with Leslie as his assistant. They had a few other agents at that brokerage. But in 2015, he approached me about joining Gold Coast Realty. And I was like, no, you're a great guy, Tom, but Gold Coast Realty is tiny, and our team was giant. And then we had several conversations. And then one day he came back to me and he said, okay, well, we're going to become, Leslie has brought it to our attention. We're going to become a Better Homes and Gardens franchise. And I was like, hey, you got my attention. So we really started talking a lot. The Manharts got involved. A lot of people got involved. But at the very last minute, when we were about to become Better Homes and Gardens, I had to back out because my mom was dying. And so they went ahead and started the company, Better Homes and Gardens Integrity. So for some of you that have seen that Better Homes and Gardens and Real Estate Integrity floating around there, it's because that's what our name was for about 6 months. And then in the spring of 16, when the dust had settled, Tom came back to me and very respectfully waited for my mom to pass and then wanted to regroup. So we did. And but of course, obviously things changed, went a little bit of a different direction because I didn't want to just join his company. I wanted to be more involved in it. So that's when we became Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, the Good Life Group. That was March 17th, 2016. What we had going for us as a team was that relationship marketing. We did the monthly pop buys as a team. We had amazing client parties. We just had really good systems into place. But Tom and Leslie and them, they had put together the brand, the Better Homes brand and everything. So it really was a great merger. And I knew that the Better Homes and Gardens brand was going to work perfectly with what we had established as a team. I knew that philosophy, that style, that look, and then come to find out, years later did I realize that my very, very, very first business card, which I don't have a copy of, was at Richter Real Estate. And I had a little white picket fence on the front of it. This is 1997. And I was trying to make it look like a Better Homes and Gardens real estate. That was my goal. And little did I know that, 20 some years later, it was going to be a very different story. Anyway, so all that's just a little bit of back history. Let me go into some of the beefy stuff. So Carol, when she came to town, she introduced us to the Buffini & Company because most people in Omaha didn't know Buffini & Company at the time. So she introduced a lot of us to it. We really got into it. We spent 100 Days to Greatness. But at that time, I also did my heritage profile. The heritage profile is something that people in Buffini & Company go through, where it's a deep, deep research. It's like the DISC test, but so much, 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 much more. It's much more in depth. It's deeper questions, and it teaches you how to understand yourself. So I learned that I was a firefighter. Carol, do you want to try to bring that up and you can show my profile? So my number one attribute is a firefighter. And a lot of my life, professional life, changed for me when I learned how to understand myself. So there we are. So the portrait of Tim Reeder. So these attributes, my number one impress as a firefighter. What that means is that my job, my mission is to put out fires and to help people. What makes me happy and what makes me tick is to fight fires. Now, the problem is, what I've learned through my coach is when you get bored, you start fires. You start problems. Just like my firefighter works against me just as much as it works for me. This morning, I spent the last 3 hours preparing for this meeting because my firefighter says, oh, I can do that later. I'll wait. It's like I intentionally make it a problem. So don't know why I do that, but it's a problem. Now, Carol, do you want to speak on all these other things? Because I don't understand the profile quite as well as you do.
Sure. This, for Tim, in the relational family, which is totally him, he's a team player, which means he's always willing to help. He's always willing to participate in the team. And it's an incredible position to be in if it's managed right. When he needs to be a leader, he can be a leader because he's a firefighter. So he can step up and do all those things. But he basically can be, he's always the guy that always volunteers and says, hey, I'll help with that, or I'll do that, or I'll bring that to you. That's why he does so well as an agent supporting his team's relation. And that's from the relational family. So each one of these, when you have it done, comes from one particular family. But these are the attributes that he is compelled to use. He has absolutely no choice but to use these. And firefighter, like if there's anything that describes Tim, and particularly when I first met him, everything was on fire all the time. And he still was getting home at 5 o'clock. I could never imagine how that was happening. From the structure family, he's an organizer, which means he is the one that like the video that we had when we did our
Toast to Hope.
Yes, the Toast to Hope. That was all put together by Tim. He figured out how to do that and put that together. Went through all of the Facebook pages. The Intense Freedom family. He's definitely a free spirit. Just like he said, you can't, don't tie me down and say that I can't give from my heart. He does not want those kinds of restrictions on him. And he's an explorer. He will always just go out and discover whatever it is that there is that he wants to learn more about. You can guarantee that Tim will be on Google and he will find out every bit of information that he can. If he doesn't, his husband does. So
right. Yeah.
They explore deeply. The style of his attributes. One thing I wanted to say in here is, when we first started our team, everybody on the team had one of these done, and we posted them all. I think, Kelly, you'll remember, we had them all out in our hallway of where our team was housed. And so we would look at them to see, to learn about each other, to learn what the best attributes people had. So who was going to resist doing something as a team, who was going to be the best at it. Now, for the relational family, for me, for Tim and I, we were partners when we first started this. I'm a team leader. So the two things together worked really, really well because I don't have some of the attributes that Tim has. And I'll show you one that he has that I do not have and worked really well with us.
Yeah, tell us, because we don't have to go over every single one.
Yeah. So one of the things in here that really, really helped us is he is in his natural perspectives. He is a person who creates something and then finalizes it. He goes into all the pieces. He'll run everywhere he can to do things. Where I am create global, and I do not have finalized. So I always need
to elaborate on what you just said, to use the best example, like a moment ago, you were talking about that Toast to Hope video. Yeah, I may have created it, but then Rhonda, she's the one that did all the work to pull up the photos. Because all that tedious stuff, I can't do it, and my mind goes crazy. But then I'll finalize it. And so the better I knew how to work with myself, and the better I know how to do these things, the better I can operate. Again, using Rhonda for an example, she, as my assistant, she will go find information for me regularly, whatever it is I'm asking for. Then she gives it to me to deliver, or me to wrap it up, because I'm the finalizer. And I didn't realize that until I had this profile done.
Yeah. Okay, can I take this off here now?
Yeah, go ahead. So to that point, what it was is basically I learned how to understand myself and understand my personality. And the more I learned, the better. Johnny Buffini, who is Brian Buffini's brother, who runs the Heritage Profile, long story, his term, he says, once a man understands himself, he begins to live. And his whole thing is the more you understand yourself, the more the more successful you are. And then it helps you learn what you're good at and what you need to delegate. So understanding that's really big. So then going into time management, I'm really big into my time management. Time blocking is absolutely imperative to me. Virtually everything I do is on my calendar. And that's one of the reasons I do well with listings, but I don't do as well with buyers. Because buyers, you have to be able to, jump and run, the minute they call you, a house popped on the market. So I'm not as good with that. And it's taken me some time to realize it's because of my personality. My personality is not good at snapping my fingers and dropping everything and going and doing something. I need my structure. I need it to be on my calendar already. And so that was a big deal to me. So I time block everything. I time block my calls. I time block my paying bills. Everything I do is time blocked. I also make sure to take take advantage of when I'm driving. Like when this ATA is over, I've got to go run 2 errands, and I have 8 phone calls I plan on making on those calls. 2 calls while I'm going to the first place, 2 calls when I'm going to the second place, 2. I have it timed out, and that's the way I know I'm going to get those 8 phone calls done.
How do you set them up, Tim? Do you put them in your phone already, or do you have them written down?
Depends on what it is. And usually I just use the notes feature on my phone. And if the person's phone number is not already in my phone, then I'll put it in the note as well. But the other thing, let's just say, my email box is empty at all times. I read it, I respond to it, and I delete it. Or I save it. And one thing I learned years ago from, I think it was the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, is to never read an email twice. And as many email, and of course, we say that tongue in cheek. Sometimes you just have to read it more than twice. But the goal is to never don't look at an email and then leave it in my email box, because then if I go there tomorrow, I'm gonna have to read that again just to get caught up on what it was. Deal with it now, is how I have to deal with it. And if it's something more complicated, like for example, this morning I had a seller email me a very long list of questions. It's an upcoming listing. And I looked at that, and it's going to take me 30 minutes to respond to that. So what I'll do, and I know this sounds weird, is I took that email and I filed it away, because my email box is always empty. I copied that email link and put it in my calendar for today at 4:30. So today at 4:30 on my calendar, I click on it, and then that email pops up, and I already bookmarked the time to respond to it. Because I know that's going to take me 30 minutes. So it's things like that. If I get invited to something and it's not an Evite, and it's just like a flyer that somebody invited you to or something, I put it in my saved emails, and then I copy and paste that in my calendar. That's one of the nice things about Google, is it'll open anything. So Zoom has been amazing. It really has been great to use Zoom, because there's less chitter chatter. There's less hanging around the cooler. There's just it's more efficient. So I'm really happy that we're doing Zoom. What else? Sorry, I'm trying to read as I do this. One of the things, and maybe this should have been under the buyers. Actually, this should have been under buyers, but I'll talk about it now. Is I'm really careful to not cower to a client's schedule, and that's more. It comes up more with a buyer than it does anybody else. But let's just say it's a seller. If a seller calls me and says they want me to come over and list their house, and I'm going to ask, that sounds great. Let's get together. Let's schedule it. And a lot of times the realtor's first reaction is to take the first appointment that person says. They'll say, can you come over today at 4? Yes. They don't talk to their spouse. They don't figure out what's going on. They just grab it. The reality is that person called you, and as long as you are, and they were most likely referred to you, as long as you're respectful and you schedule something for like the next day or the next day, they're not going to go anywhere. It's really important that you schedule things that are convenient for you, and you don't have to tell them that. You're good at what you do, and there's a reason why they're calling you, so they'll wait for you. They'll wait another day or so. So I find that to be really important. Now, again, with buyers, it's a little different because when you have a buyer you're working with and a house pops on the market, you got to jump. You have to jump. And so that's the reason it's hard for me to balance a lot of buyers. Creating a specialty. So this was a game changer for me in my career. I have a lot of game changers, and I'll kind of summarize those at the end of it. But when I came up with a specialty and I really leaned into it, I know I got a good one because old houses is a good specialty. So we're very lucky there. But the thing is that having a specialty really helps make you stand out and pop. Some people, and myself included, was afraid of having a specialty early on because I was afraid it was going to pigeonhole me and I was going to miss out on other clients. And I definitely think that has happened. There's definitely cases where I have missed out on a listing because they were like, oh, you specialize in old homes, whatever. But what I've gained far outpaces what I've lost because of my specialty. So I find a specialty to be a really important thing. And the thing is, there's so many things you can specialize in. There's condos, first-time home buyers, elderly people. Obviously, we have old homes. There's a guy in Omaha that specializes in ranch homes. There's people that specialize in new construction, farmland, acreages, investment properties, divorcees. I mean, there's so many things. And I know that whenever I have one-on-ones with agents and they say something about specialties and they'll say, oh, somebody already does that. Somebody already does that. Well, the reality is you don't have to be first. You just have to be different. So if you want to see, let's just say old houses, for example, although you don't need to tread on us. Just kidding. There's lots of old homes in Omaha. There's plenty of business to go around. Let's just say that you wanted to specialize in old homes. You could do that. You just got to do it different than we did. Also, keep in mind that when you're marketing or advertising, the audience or the people that are seeing you are totally different than the people that are seeing me. Our circles are totally different. So I feel bad when people get discouraged and don't want to do a specialty because they're afraid it's going to pigeonhole them. I promise, it just makes you stand out, is what it does. I highly recommend consider a specialty. Also, if you do have a specialty, it doesn't have to be in every piece of advertising you do. Like, let's just say that you decided you wanted to specialize in condos. That's really a marketing strategy you're going to do. And you're going to go after those condos in that market strategy. The people that live in the suburbs aren't going to see your condo marketing strategy. So I feel very strongly with specialties. Years ago, we had somebody on the Good Life group when it was a team, Steve Tornaton. And he decided he was going to specialize in condos. He created his own website. He wrote a book. It was called Condo Living Omaha, and he killed it. He did so good that he was able to sell it all, and he doesn't sell real estate anymore. So specialties really can be great. Starting a team. I get a lot of people asking, should I start a team? You got to make sure that the reason you're going to start a team is the right reason. Don't do it to make money. And I say that because unless you're planning on becoming a mega team and you're planning on going really down the road, it's really hard to make money on a team. It takes a lot of time, a lot of training, a lot of effort of the other agents. Really, the best reasons to have a team are if you have excess leads that you're looking to hand off. That's a good reason to have a team. Or if your team has a specific style or a purpose where you're all doing things in a similar way. The other thing is, when it comes to teams, there's partnerships, there's, obviously husband-wife teams. There's lots of different ways to do it. I think that for anybody who's considering starting a team, my suggestion would be to start a partnership first, where it's like maybe you and somebody else, whoever the other high-producing agent is, and you don't share your commissions right off the bat. You maybe share the expenses, share the assistance, share the space, but you make your own money separately, because I think that's going to be one of the things because people work at different speeds, and I find the times that I have seen teams fail quickly, it's because it wasn't equal at the beginning. So I'd be very, very careful with that. Does anybody have any questions about starting a team or anything like that? Somebody does, just raise their hand. So, assistant, working with an assistant. So that's another question. A lot of these things, I'm just bringing up questions that are brought out to me a lot when I'm just talking to agents. The thing is if you're thinking about needing an assistant, that means you already need it. An assistant pays for themselves over and over and over. The thing is it depends on what you need. You know, at the beginning, transaction coordinator. A transaction coordinator does a great job. They really, and I know by the numbers of the transaction coordinators that are out there, they could be so much busier. You look at Stephanie Schroeder, for example, she does an amazing job. Her prices are absolutely out of this world, and she can handle so much more than she's currently doing. So I highly recommend considering using a transaction coordinator before, if you're even thinking about it. But then when you're thinking about an assistant, the typical rule of thumb for a full-time dedicated assistant is if you and the agent are at about the 5 million mark. If you're selling 5 million, that can almost justify a full-time dedicated assistant. But there's lots of in-betweens. There's hiring, there's sharing an assistant with somebody else, not even partnering or being a team, just sharing an assistant. There is having a part-time assistant. And one of the differences between an assistant versus a transaction coordinator is the assistants often do more things, different things. A transaction coordinator is going to have a specific list of things that they're going to do for your transaction, but an assistant is going, well, what, Rhonda, I think yesterday you called a plumber to come to my personal home. Those are the kind of things that a personal assistant is going to do for you, because that also takes those things off your plate so that you can be doing sales. So when you start producing and you get to the point where you're 5 million or more, a full-time dedicated assistant is probably in your wheelhouse. And there's so many things that they can help you do.
Tim, will you speak a little bit to how difficult it is to let go of things to actually allow a system to do their work?
Yeah, and that also goes back to the heritage profile. Yeah, it's very hard. I'm having to say, do what I say, don't do as I do, because I know I'm not that good at it. I know that I do a bad job of letting go of things because I think, oh, I can't let somebody else do it. I need to do it. And somebody else thinks I need to do it. And it's a problem, because that's not the case. And the more you can delegate, the more you can let the assistant do it. That's the reason they're in the position to begin with, is because they're there to take things off of your plate. And the more, I will say, my coach recently, he's been very much pushing me to only do the things I like to do. And that the things I don't like to do, whatever they are, to either have my assistant do them, and if she doesn't want to do them, then maybe things she doesn't want to do either, then it's something else I need to hire or delegate somewhere else. So that's the reason I've recently decided I really am going back to just listings. This year I've been helping buyers, and don't get me wrong, I love buyers. They're wonderful, and it's very rewarding, but my time I can't do it. I'm letting the buyers that I have worked with this year, I've let them down. Because I'm not there.
Remember what Heather Roxburgh said, and I think I shared it with you too, is about the difference between just a team and a mega team that actually is a pumping business, is that somebody goes from being an independent agent, they go from the I stage, me, to the we stage, having a partner or a team, and they don't ever get to the they stage, which is exactly what you're talking about. They do all of those things. Somebody else does it, and you just do what you do in building the business. So it's the I, the we, and the they.
I like that a lot. And, there's a happy medium in there, because there's some things sometimes you just have to do it. There's some things, like my coach says, there's things you don't want to do, don't do them. And that's true, but there's sometimes I just don't have a choice. I'm just going to have to do it. But you're right. And delegating the things that you don't want to do, and the things you can't do, or the things you're bad at, that's just so critical. And that's, again, why you're hiring an assistant to begin with. So I would agree with that. Okay, I'm looking at the clock. So listings, just want to kind of give a summary of listings. I'm not going to go through like a listing presentation, but at the end of the day, I love listings. I love listings. That's the bread and butter. I know we all say that, but I love listings. I will tell you, I used to absolutely hate listings. I hated them because it was so much more responsibility. It was so much more intimidating. When you're working with a buyer, they're not paying you. It's for lack of a better word, it's fun. It's exciting. We're going to find a house together. I'm here in it with it to help you. I'm here with you to help you find the house. But when you're representing a seller, they just see that they're paying you 6%. Doesn't matter how it's being chopped up. And the pressure's on. Now, don't get me wrong. In this market, it's good. Well, depending on your house. But listings, it wasn't until I finally created systems for my listings, marketing system for my listings, how I responded, how I talked to my listings and my sellers, that I gained confidence that I was able to take a turn. And I hear it all the time. I hear agents all the time, new agents that are intimidated or nervous about listings because they're new in the business or something. So it's more a matter of confidence. So once I became really confident, that's when I really started doing really well. So just kind of summarize how I do things when I go on a listing appointment. I find it very simple for myself. These are things that I do that I know everybody else does things differently. I find it to be simple. The simpler, the better. When I'm going on a listing appointment, I have my pen and paper and my business card. I might have a piece of marketing material with me, and then that's absolutely it. When I walk in the door, I have the pen and paper ready to go. We make our introductions at the door, and then I take control of the listing appointment. After we exchange pleasantries, before they even say anything, I will say, well, why don't we go take a look at the house? If you don't mind, since we're up, you give me a tour of the home. And then when we're done, we sit and we'll visit. I find if I sit down first, then we get a tour, then we're going to sit down afterwards. So I find it to go much more efficiently if we just, while we're all standing at the door, let's start looking at the house. I furiously take notes. I take lots and lots of notes, and I ask the sellers they're giving me a tour of the home, and I'm listening to everything they're saying. They're throwing out updates. They're throwing out the things they love about the home. They're throwing out the things they don't like about the home. They're writing the marketing for you while you're giving them a tour of the home. They're telling you the problems, so on and so forth. I will say that often as we're walking through, they'll say, should we paint this room? Or should we fix this? Or should we that? And I will make a note on the page, and I'll say, you know what, I'm not sure yet. We need to see the whole thing because I want to make sure that I'm giving you the proper advice. Because I might think, yeah, this needs to be painted, but I don't know yet how much time they have, how much money they have, what their situation is, or if the furnace has got to be replaced, which is a much bigger priority. It's like I don't know yet. So I take notes, the whole thing, and then when we're done, after they give me an exterior as well. Although if it's the dead of winter, I will briefly see as much of the exterior of the home before I go into the house, because they're not going to give me a tour of the house when there's 3 feet of snow outside. So I try to, or if it's really, really cold. So I try to look at it first so that when we're inside, we can talk about it. But then when it's time to sit down, I tell them where I want to sit. I always want to sit at the kitchen table. I never want to sit in the living room. The living room's too comfortable. They sit back too much. They get very comfortable and they talk slower in the living room. I find the kitchen table, when we're sitting across from each other, goes faster. I can take notes easier, and it just goes faster. When they offer me something to eat or drink, I always turn it down. One, because it often takes too much time. I remember one time I was helping this lady, her and her husband, buy a house. And I went to their home to sit down and have a conversation, a buyer's presentation. She went to get a drink. She went in the other room and made us lunch. And she came back like 30 minutes later with a full lunch. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't have time for that. Or there was the time that the guy asked me if I wanted something to drink. And he said he had Diet Mountain Dew. And I said, sure. So he gave me Diet Mountain Dew. I'm sitting there with my cup and I'm drinking it. And then 5 minutes later, I look over and he's got the 2-liter bottle that's all the way down to here and he's drinking it. So he's gave me soda out of the big bottle that he's been drinking out of.
Oh, Jesus.
So I was a little stuck. Ever since then, I've been like, no more. I'll drink in the car before I get over here. So Anyway, I take control of that. And I will say, without going through everything about my listings, the thing that I'll tell you, the number one reason I get the listings every single time is they tell me it's because I was excited about their home and I liked their home. When I am walking through their home, I'm listening to what they like. They're telling me the things about it, which means they're helping me write the description. And then when I see them light up, I light up. When they're showing me the favorite thing about their house, I'm genuinely appreciated because people want to feel appreciated. And I absolutely, it's all 100% of the time they say that I'm genuinely excited about their house. Don't get me wrong, there's sometimes it's kind of a POS and there's not a lot to get excited about, but you can still learn to just be genuinely appreciative of how clean it is or how tidy they are or whatever. There's always something you can compliment. But that's the biggest thing. I leave every listing with a feel that I liked their home, we connected. I make them feel like I heard everything they said because I wrote everything down and I repeated a lot of it. I often will ask them, if they were selling this house for sell by owner, what would they say is their best attribute? Or what would they, that didn't come out of my mouth right. But I asked them how they write things, how they described it. What's their favorite thing about the house? What's the thing they don't like about the house the most? What's the thing they hate about the house? I asked that. I asked that a lot. Because when I'm starting to get negative feedback, if it's not selling right away, and I'm digging for negative, if I hear somebody say the same thing they hate about the house, then at least I know that they already know it. So I'm genuinely listening. I'm also leave there with a plan. They feel like there's a plan that they're going to hear from me. They know when things are going to be marketed. They know what the time frame is, and I also make sure that I'm going to tell them how I'm going to communicate. I tell them how often they're going to hear from me. They're going to hear from me a minimum of once a week. I will tell you, I under-promise and over-deliver. I tell my sellers they're going to hear from me at least once a week, and they do at least once a week. I am just going to, in an efforts of time, I'm going to run down probably like 10 things that I wrote. There were kind of my tips on listings. One of the things I do is I rearrange the photos and the public remarks periodically. If you go in the MLS and you rearrange the photos and the public remarks, it does automatically push the house back out there to anybody who's got a saved search. So when I do that, I will see that the number of hits the next day on Zillow goes up. I make sure that I have a scheduled day of the week to reach out to the sellers at the bare minimum, so that that's the day they hear from me, if not that, more. Every time I email the sellers, or if anything's going on, I CC the sellers on everything I'm doing. Like if an agent emails me or calls me about the property, I will email the agent back and I'll BCC my seller. If I'm sending a mass email out, or if Rhonda sends a mass email out about one of our listings, I will then forward it to the seller. Every little thing we're doing, I want the seller to see it. Now I'm working on getting different reports, like Zillow has reports and things like that. I like to have the seller automatically get those reports. It's just a matter of what's going on. They want to know that something's going on, even if it's nothing.
Hey, Tim, will you answer a quick question from Chad?
Yeah.
Tim, can you please give a few thoughts on asking for referrals specifically from clients you are currently assisting with a transaction?
Yes, that's actually one of my points. One of the things that it's actually one of my end game changers for this whole thing is how to ask for referrals. And it's both with buyers and sellers. Now, with the buyer's appointments, I sit down with the buyer appointment at the very beginning and I tell them that I work by relationship, and they were referred to me. I usually say, I'm looking to I work by relationship and by referral is what I do. I don't advertise on bus benches and billboards. My goal is to do such a good job for you between now and the time that we close on your home that you will have referred me 2 clients. And that's how I say it. And the reason I say it like that is, first of all, it can go for either buyer or seller. I used to say that, but I used to not say 2. I used to just say, you're going to refer me. And they would always say, oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to refer you. But it wasn't until my Buffini coach suggested that I put the number 2 on it that it changed everything. When I say to somebody, my goal is to, by the time between now and the time we close on the home, that I will have earned 2 referrals from you because I would have given you good service, they're going to do it. They're always going to do it, usually even more than that. And I'm able to touch base with them later and just say, hey, if you remember, I work by relationship and referral. So if you know anybody looking to buy or sell, I'm always here for them. And just saying it. And the more you say it and the more you do it, the easier it's going to roll off your tongue. But that was a game changer. It really was. A couple brief things also, like I already told you, I do all my own deed sets. Now you have to be a notary to do that. But there was a time not that long ago that all realtors were notaries. I love sitting down with my seller at the very end and signing all the final paperwork. It's one of the best meetings we can have because we're talking, you know, we're getting ready to close. Usually, typically everything went well. So we're talking about the final moments. We're talking about the keys. We're talking about everything. But also I'm able to give them my closing gift. So Rhonda does this for me. So we do this on almost most of our listings, you know, because we all have professional photos. Excuse me, Rhonda. Sorry. I'll undo this. So we turn all of our listings into a photo book. And so it's just a professional, all the professional photos, and people love it. People absolutely love this. Here lately, she's been able to find some really good photos on Facebook or some history searches. So we're able to personalize these even more, but it's got the address in the binder. I know you can't see it. And then down here, it just says Home of the Jewel Family, 2017 to 2020. So this, how much do we pay these? About $30 or $40 or so, Rhonda? Yeah, something like that. The price changes because it, you know, and there's different companies, but I love handing that to the seller. I love seeing a seller cry when I hand them that.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, I'm gonna have to move on. Buyers.
Kelly's raising your hand. Kelly's raising her hand, I think.
Hey, Tim, so do you tell them about that book when you have the listing appointment?
No, it's a
Do you
complete
write a
surprise.
after the listing appointment, do you write them a personal note?
Thank you. Yes. I write them a personal note and I put it in the mail that exact same day. Usually I will go to the post office and drop it in the mailbox so that they get it the next day.
Several of my referrals have said that because of that personal note, I got the listing.
Yep, I totally believe it. I've been there with you. Now, on the same note, I'm going to tell you guys something I do that some of you might look at me like, what the hell? I send a personal note to the buyer after closing. Not my buyer. I represented the seller. I send a personal note to the buyer after closing. I do not ask for their business. It's a genuine congratulations on your home. I know you're going to really enjoy it. Blah, 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 blah. If you ever have any problems with the home, feel free to reach out to me, yada, yada, yada. I throw my card in there. I am not doing that to steal somebody's client. I'm doing that, one, because it's a professional thing to do. And I really am genuinely appreciative. Congratulations on your home. Now, I will tell you, I have gotten a lot of listings because of that. And it's usually because down the road, they said that after closing, they never heard from their realtor again. They heard from me. Or it's or for a variety of reasons, or they just like my professionalism of it. Or sometimes they go to call their realtor and their realtor is no longer in the business. So it's not really, it's just a genuine, polite, I never say anything about referrals. I'm not trying to steal their client. It's just a polite thing to do. So I'm pretty much done because I know we're almost done, but I want to give you my highlights where my career leaps, or the summary, the things that made a big difference in my life and career were: one, when I focused 100% on my business. I used to own those rental properties and I didn't really go into that rabbit hole, but those killed me. They were sucking my time, they were sucking my energy, they were sucking my money. And it wasn't until I finally sold, I sold all my rental properties and I kept one because it was my baby. It was the closest one to my own home and I wanted to keep this rental property. But finally I said, screw it, and I let it go. And that was the first year I made 6 figures. It was like I was able to take my mind off of this other crap and focus all of my time and energy on real estate sales. That was a big deal. Hiring my first assistant was huge. That was a game changer. I thought I hired her way before I was ready. Her name was Shirley. She called me one day and I was sharing her with somebody else. And she said, Tim, I can't work with this other person anymore. I need to work just with you. I said, oh my God, I was terrified, but I had a little 401k and I went and cashed it in. I bought her a computer. I started a checking account. I put in a cushion and I just said, I'm doing it. And now I will never not have an assistant again. Rhonda, you're never going anywhere. Starting a team.
Don't worry.
Starting a team was a big game changer for me, but it wasn't a financial game changer. It was more of it helped me learn myself. It helped me learn what I was good at, what I was not good at, and whether or not I wanted to run a team. As you know now, I run a small team now, but it's a totally different experience. We're more like, it's just different, much more my personality. When I decided to become a listing agent, one thing I did not articulate is that was a decision. That was an active decision. I know several of you have heard me say this. I had decided one day that I wanted to become a listing agent. And so what I said was, I'm going to become a listing agent. And that day I had several listing appointments. And when I went in the door to all of them, I said, I'm a listing agent. I don't handle buyers. I was just like faking it till I make it. And it happened overnight. That right after that happened, I was only listing houses. I wasn't working with any buyers. And it was more of a mindset. I said, this is what I was going to do. When I learned how to ask for referrals, like we were talking to you a minute ago. And that's about it. And the last thing I was going to say is that I do take the Peak class, the Buffini class, every fall. And I know people probably wonder why I do that. I've been in this business for a long time. Obviously, I've been a mentor. I've sat on that class hundreds of times. Well, maybe not hundreds. It's because it's consistency. It keeps me on track. It keeps me consistent. And when you go into the winter and you have just called all your clients or just left a really good or in the middle of a really good marketing campaign, it helps you have a good winter. I will say in about 2014, I remember we were going into winter. I didn't have a lot of nest eggs set aside. The Farmer's Almanac said winter was going to be terrible. I was shitting bricks. I was like, I'm not ready for this winter. And I created my own little best winter ever campaign. And what it was is I just decided it was going to be a good winter. And I told all my clients it was going to be a good winter. And they were like, what are you talking about? We have a lot of snow. I said, it's still going to be a good winter. And I just kind of made it a good winter all through my head. And I tell you, I had the best winter. That year, that December I sold the most houses that December than I did the entire year. So it was pretty big. So anyway, that's it. Okay, now we're 1 minute to go and I've talked my ass off. Sorry.
Okay, you guys have questions?
There's something there. Are you friends with clients? Do you keep it at a professional level? Depend on the client. Say that again, Chad. Do I stay professional or do I get a little more casual? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, like more so like after the transaction. Like, are you Facebook friends? Like, I go golfing, fishing with clients, or do you keep it more like, no, I'm your agent?
Well, it's not because I'm being a jerk. It's because I'm lazy and I'm busy. I will say I keep them more like as business friends. But the good thing is when you do it right, you're able to stay in touch with them forever. Where it's an in between. It's not quite just business. There is that little bit of personal touch because of what we do for a living. So I will say that I stay in touch with them, but for the most part, I don't do anything socially with them after that.
Gotcha.
And then Kathy had a question. Have the buyers of your listings told their agent that you sent them a card? Have agents gotten mad at you for that?
Once. It was a dick. It was a guy that none of you would have, I didn't give a crap that he called me. If anything, he got mad at me and I said to him, the reason you're upset is because you know that you're never going to talk to them again. And I did. And he goes, oh, no, I'm not. Because the guy has I'm not going to tell you his name. He has a really bad reputation. And he called me screaming and hollering. And I yelled, I said to him, it was just a congratulations note. It didn't say call me. It didn't say I want your business. It didn't say anything about your referrals. It literally just said congratulations. Screw you.
His name is Dick.
From here forth it is. Okay, it's time is just about up. Next week is Rob Commodore. Some of you know who he is. He was on our stage for Page 2. He's written a book called Better Than You Think. Rob's the kind of guy you want to talk to on a day when you're not feeling so up. Rob's the guy just is a walk and talk and ball of joy. And he's going to share with us some of the things that he's learned about how to listen and pay attention so that you can give little pieces of your own self and your joy, give it to your clients. that's in the way of noticing something that they need, sending them. So gifts and phone calls, things like that. So, and several other things that he's going to share with us. So he will be here next week, and then we'll have the September calendar really soon. We've got it pretty much filled. So we've got some fantastic people that are going to share with us this month. And also, I'm going to put the invitation out again for Pathway to Mastery. Starts on September 14th, and I think they're still honoring the $195 versus $295 or $395. I don't know what it was, but and there's already like 25 people that are going to be in the class. So if you guys want to have just a great way to get your week started, every Monday from 10 to 2, join. Just click on the link, join, or give me a call if you have any questions. All right.
That sounds great. And I bought Rob Commodore's book. So between now and, I'm saying this publicly so that between now and then I have to read it.
Okay. Well, it's also on Audible now.
Yeah.
I've read it
It's a great
twice.
book. I got a case of them. I'm giving them out for Popeyes.
Yeah. Did you like the book, Kelly?
I love the book. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a quick story about Rob?
Yes.
I had my cousin in California needed a realtor in Maryland, and she called me in Omaha to find one. So
Yeah.
and of course I knew Rob. So I called Rob, and he says, sure. So I called my cousin. I said, it was his friend. I said, he's going to pick you up at the airport. You're in good hands. And then after he picked him up at the airport, afterwards he calls me. Rob calls me. He says, Kelly, thank you so much for the referral. I said, of course, Rob, because I didn't know what it was all about. He says, no, you don't understand. We're looking at $14 million homes.
Oh my God.
The referral fee alone would be like $56,000 for
Oh my
making a
God.
phone call.
Yeah. Wow.
Working by referral,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay.
He's really a
Thanks,
great
Tim,
guy.
very much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks,
Good luck.
Kim.
Fire
Bye-bye.
hose of information from the firefighter.